You know that feeling when you open TikTok for a quick scroll and then suddenly you're emotionally invested in like 3 wars, a celebrity breakup, and some guy's 12-minute rant about seed oils? Like 2 hours in, I can't tell if I'm staying informed or just marinating in existential dread. Somewhere between global collapse and a video of a raccoon washing grapes, we have all completely lost control of our attention spans. Scrolling doesn't even feel intentional anymore. It's reflexive. It's like a compulsion. We tell ourselves we're keeping up with the world, but mostly we're just letting our cortisol get its steps in. Enter doom scrolling. The truth is, outrage has become entertainment. It's the internet's most profitable resource right now.
You mean like the ones they should have done to the goddamn vaccines?
Like the ones that they did do for the vaccines and they continue to do to this day. Yes, that is correct.
We're not just addicted to our phones, we are largely addicted to outrage, and the tech companies know it. They've engineered every scroll, every notification, every recommended for you to keep us emotionally triggered and perpetually online. They build entire ad systems around constantly provoking emotional responses because nothing holds attention better than a little bit of chaos. And in the process, they have gradually rewired our nervous systems. Whether we're doom scrolling for information or just like idle entertainment, the algorithm doesn't care why you're there, only that you are. Somewhere along the line, silence, boredom, and even calm stopped feeling natural. Our brains got used to the chaos because honestly, that's what sells. A world built on outrage was never designed for peace. And think about what life was like for most of human history. Pretty boring. It was a lot of doing nothing and filling that boredom with whatever the hell you wanted to, really, other than survival. We were never, ever designed to be constantly stimulated 24/7 by a little like metal box with all of the world's worst news presented to us constantly. I don't want this video to be another like the internet is bad rant to add to the never-ending pile of the internet is bad rants on YouTube. I actually wanted to understand why it's so good at keeping us all so hooked and what we can realistically do about it. I don't think the answer is just like deleting everything, but I do think that we often forget we can just log off. But it's not always that simple when our brains and biology are being manipulated by companies with more money than a small country. The internet, after all, runs on attention, and emotion is the fastest way to get it and retain it. Every platform figured that out a long time ago. If something makes you laugh or cry or rage scroll in the comments, it keeps you on the app longer. And the longer you're there, the more ads they can slip in between the chaos. The Facebook papers confirm this. Posts that got an angry reaction were 5 times more valuable than just a regular like. 5 times? Facebook literally discovered that outrage was better for business, and instead of dialing it back, they built their entire platform around it. The recommendation systems on other social media sites do a similar thing. Watch one political video and within a few clicks, you've gone from casual browsing to just binging societal meltdown compilations. It's not necessarily because those sites are trying to radicalize you though, but it is largely because emotion and stress and anger keep you watching and keep you on their site, which makes them more money. Twitter, or I guess X now, is pretty guilty of this. It's known to boost things, anything that gets people arguing. And that is just one of the reasons why it's way more of a toxic cesspit than other sites. Not that other sites are the pinnacle of love and light and community. Definitely not. Quote tweets, clapbacks, subtweets, dogpiling. It's basically a dopamine economy built on being pissed off at absolutely everything all the time. And TikTok turned outrage into a whole genre. There is always some influencer getting called out. There's always someone exposing the truth or a moral panic about whatever new trend is supposedly destroying society that week. Give it a few days and then it burns out and then a new one starts up. And the formula pretty much works every single time. Emotional engagement equals money. Sometimes that funnel has extra steps, but that's generally the formula. The algorithm really doesn't care if you're happy or furious, just that you are still on the site. And whether we want to admit it or not, happiness and sunshine and rainbows does not sell as well as outrage and doom scrolling and stressing people out and making people angry. And good news and positivity definitely doesn't keep us engaged, and I'll explain why. Because deep down, biologically, our brains are simply wired to pay more attention to threats than to calm. And that makes perfect sense when you think about it. It's a survival thing. Like for most of human history, noticing danger quickly kept us alive. However, now that we're not like fighting for survival every single day, generally, those same instincts sort of have nowhere to go, and we've funneled that into doom scrolling. So that's where we're at. Like for most of human history, paying attention to danger was essential. The people who noticed the snake in the grass and the rustle in the bushes or like the shift in the weather, They're the people who survived and passed along their genes. Over time, that means selecting for what we now call anxiety. So our brains evolved to treat anything negative as potentially life-threatening, like fear and anger and disgust all light up the same parts of the brain that used to tell us run or hide or fight or freeze. It's called a negativity bias, and it is one of the oldest survival mechanisms that we have. But now, instead of like predators or storms, our threats are headlines and hot takes. Even though we consciously understand the difference, our brains and our biology don't know the difference between actual danger and a viral post that feels like danger or is registering as danger even on a smaller scale. The same circuits that once protected us are being hijacked by social media companies and by algorithms and by outrage cycles that are designed to keep us in this like high stress state of being all the time. When feeds are literally curated to keep us angry and keep us scrolling, it's really hard to know what's true and what's just engineered to spike your cortisol. I needed a way to step outside of that outrage loop and actually like see the full picture, and that's where the sponsor of this video, Ground News, helps out. It really helps you see past the outrage machine and see the full picture. Ground News is a website and app that lets you see every side of a news story in one place. Instead of being stuck with like whatever your algorithm picked for you, Ground News shows coverage from all across the political spectrum. This is the thing I love about it. And with context about each outlet's bias, their reliability, and the ownership. That makes it way harder for outrage bait to work on you because you can literally compare the perspectives side by side. For example, on this story about the No Kings protest that is blowing up on social media, the first thing you see is the bias distribution for the outlets covering it, which for this story is about 88% right-leaning. I can scroll down and compare how different outlets frame the exact same event. Notice how these two headlines use completely different language to point you towards opposite emotional reactions. That's the kind of framing you won't necessarily catch inside a doom scroll. It also gives you a bias comparison and a summary of how each side is covering the exact same topic. It shows you how factual each media outlet publishing the story tends to be. The left emphasizes the protests as anti-Trump, while the right is making claims that the protests are secretly funded, although both agree that tens of thousands of people are showing up. If I want to go deeper, I can check blind spot to surface stories that one side of the spectrum isn't covering at all, or filter by region to see how international outlets report the same issue. The point is not to tell you what to believe, it's to give you enough context to decide for yourself without being steered by engagement hacks. If you want to see the full picture and get out of the outrage cycle, for a limited time, subscribe using my link or the QR code on screen, or go to ground.news/worth and save 40% on the unlimited access Vantage plan. Make sure you use my link in the description below so they know I sent you along. This is something we so desperately need more of in today's media landscape, and that's a big reason why I was so excited to work with Ground News. It's really a tool that benefits everyone regardless of what side of the political spectrum you sit on. Again, my link ground.news/worth will be below if you want to check it out, and thanks again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. A lot of people profit from keeping us constantly on edge. Tech companies know this, grifters know this, influencers know this. Anyone trying to hold your attention knows that fear and anger make better bait than nuance ever will. Biologically, our brains and bodies have not evolved fast enough to keep up with the pace of the information age that we now live in. For like almost all of human history, our nervous systems were designed to keep up with local problems. A few people, a few threats, a few updates a day. Now we're processing like the equivalent of an entire village's annual crises before breakfast. Not normal, not good for us. We were not designed for constant stimulation, the constant notifications, the constant breaking news alerts, the infinite scroll that is designed to hijack our dopamine. Our brains are essentially still running on like Stone Age hardware, but we're trying to operate in a digital flood of constant negative emotion and outrage. So the internet didn't invent outrage, but it did industrialize it. Every scroll and tap and refresh is essentially like a slot machine pull. Maybe this time you'll see something funny, maybe it'll ruin your night, but either way your brain is rolling the dice. And that's mostly dopamine's fault, good old dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter that rewards us for seeking things, not just finding them. Like the seeking and the chase is arguably a much bigger part of it than the actual reward, whatever that is. And the unpredictability, which is called a variable reward loop, is what keeps us hooked. It's the same system that makes gambling addictive and pokies machines or slot machines, depending on where you're from. Only now the jackpot is just like a mildly interesting video that goes for 3 seconds and then somehow somehow you've still lost like 3 hours of your life to the ether. So the internet did basically turn our nervous systems into like Vegas gambling machines. Maybe this scroll sesh you'll see something funny, or maybe you'll get another apocalypse headline. Either way, your brain is still ultimately hooked on the uncertainty of it all. And that's dopamine at work. It rewards the chase, not necessarily the outcome, because a lot of the time, what even is the outcome? What's the reward? When we're doom scrolling, what is it that we are actually getting at the end of it? Nothing. Most of the time, nothing. It's the endless like chase of it all, if you could call it that, that is doom scrolling, whether we're conscious of that or not. And when everything in your feed feels urgent or a little bit threatening, your brain's stress system kicks in too. It's not that every single headline gives your brain a cortisol spike, but being surrounded by breaking news constantly does train your body to stay on alert. So oftentimes we scroll for relief, to feel updated, to feel like we're informed and in control in some way, and instead you just kind of end up finding more chaos. Again, it's not an accident. That uncertainty is the hook. Psychologist Jean Twenge, I don't know how, I'm so sorry, Twenge? Girl, I don't know. Jean has pointed out that in around like 2012, when smartphones became pretty universal, rates of anxiety and depression started climbing fast amongst young people. This doesn't prove that phones are the cause, and it could just be like pure correlation, but the timing is suspicious enough to at least make you think. And the real crux of this issue is the more that we chase stimulation, the less rewarding it gets. It's dopamine tolerance. It's similar to any drug addiction, really. When everything is designed to overstimulate you, your whole baseline for joy drops and normal life starts to feel like a little bit muted. Dinner with friends couldn't compete with the emotional roller coaster of your For You page. So we end up spending more time like scrolling than engaging in our actual real life. And this is a huge problem in today's society, and we're all guilty of it to some degree. I certainly am. Outrage and doom scrolling is just basically like a sugar high for your brain, and there's an instant high, but it's like a long-term crash. So we keep chasing the next spike, the next notification, the next maybe this one will feel good. And the thing is, like, we're not even doing this consciously most of the time. A lot of us are just doing it to kill time, but like we're really killing time. We use it to like placate ourselves. If we're bored or we're waiting in line at the supermarket or waiting somewhere in public, the first thing we do is pull out our phones. It's like a reflex. It's a tiny hit of stimulation to fill the silence, because God forbid we just stand there and exist with our thoughts, like existing in silence in my brain where my thoughts are. No, thank you. Somewhere along the line, boredom went from being pretty neutral to being like unbearable. So we fill it with noise and memes and news and opinions and whatever stops us from noticing how uncomfortable doing nothing now feels. I hate to get on the like back in my day train, because I don't feel old enough to be saying that. But for pretty much my whole childhood, we did not have the internet. We didn't even have phone reception at our house. When you were bored, you couldn't just sit there and scroll and like kill the time until something happened. You had to figure something out. You had to like go make your own fun. Turning boredom into creativity or spontaneity or whatever, just finding something to fill that boredom. That's an art form that is more or less lost at this point. And I don't say that from like a holier than thou perspective. I say that as someone who also is guilty of doing this. But the problem is those little like scroll breaks that we take don't actually reset us. They're not doing us any good. They just keep our brains on a low hum of stimulation, never fully on and also never fully off. How many times have you been scrolling on TikTok, you've gotten bored, you've closed the app, and then you've opened TikTok again purely out of reflex? Because again, I have done this before. I've done this more times than I can count, and I have to assume it's some form of brain damage at this point. And the irony is, like, we do have these little scrolling breaks and we doom scroll just to get out of our heads for a little bit, but all of this chasing is just making calm and feeling relaxed even more uncomfortable and unattainable. It is wild how fast anger turns into community online. You can hate pineapple on pizza, or you can hate capitalism, or you can hate a certain influencer's tone of voice, and somewhere online there's a group of people waiting with open arms to welcome you into the fold. It's community through mutual irritation, and that's why hate watching exists. Sometimes it's not even about the content anymore. It's like a weird car crash curiosity where you can't look away even if you swear that you're above above it, because anger, weirdly, is a bonding experience. It's the whole like the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. I think we often like to think of it as like a solo emotion, but online especially, it acts as like a social glue. We've built entire digital communities purely around outrage. Like, go on Reddit. Political subcultures, stan armies, Reddit forums dedicated to hating billionaires or defunding your favorite billionaire. Whatever your flavor of purity, there is definitely like a subreddit for it. There's a forum for it somewhere. And unfortunately it makes sense. Like, we do tend to bond more quickly over the things that we hate than the things that we love. Love takes time, hate is instant. It's very efficient. And sometimes it feels good, like disturbingly good. If dopamine had a flavor, I think it would be correcting someone who's wrong on the internet. None of us are above it. Nobody. Every like tweet and pile-on and every ratio hits that button that says you're winning. And no one really knows what we're winning, and no one really knows what the game is, but congrats, you are winning it. Until 23 seconds from now when someone else wins it. It's what people mean when they talk about like performative outrage. It's not that people don't care, it's that outrage itself has become like a form of identity, almost like a brand. And in the same vein, like virtue signaling gets a bad rap, but it really is, it's just human nature with a Wi-Fi connection. Even pre-internet, we have always wanted to be seen as good and smart and moral. Generally, the only difference now is that we have a feed that rewards it. Like the Greeks had philosophers and we have quote tweets. We're so cooked. Like every day someone becomes the new main character of Twitter, the new digital villain that we all get to boo together. It's like group therapy, except no one heals. And I think everyone gets a little bit worse actually. And like the psychology behind it is pretty simple. The social validation reinforces the behavior. The more likes that your anger gets, the more likely you are to continue expressing it, obviously. And then the more people that agree with you, the more righteous it feels. And before long, you're not actually feeling angry necessarily, but you are performing anger. And that's just one of like the many crossroads where anger and outrage become a sort of currency. It's something we trade for like belonging or identity or attention. Also, it literally is a currency. Like you can literally trade outrage for money. Directly. Entire ecosystems are built on it now. Media outlets and influencers and streamers are all competing for the biggest emotional reaction because outrage equals engagement and engagement equals money. The internet and everyone capitalizing off it figured out how to monetize our anger, and we are struggling as a species to disengage. And a big reason why I don't have to turn this entire channel into just one big rage bait factory is because of my patrons. My patrons are literally the reason I am able to talk about this stuff and have nuance and try and visit both sides of the story and like research things and discuss them thoroughly and try and figure out what's going on instead of just rage baiting people and causing shit fights in the comments, because it would be a lot more profitable if I did that. That's unfortunately the world that we live in. So my patrons are the reason I'm able to like talk about doom scrolling and talk about the outrage economy without having to turn into the thing that I'm critiquing. If you'd like to become a patron, there are tiers for as low as $3 a month. Every single subscription really helps out a lot more than I think people realize. Or if you'd like to pick a higher tier, you can get access to things like bonus content. I've been doing like bite-sized commentary videos over there about topics I think are super interesting but don't necessarily warrant like a half-an-hour video. You can also get your name listed in every single video, and you can get up to 20% off my clothing brand Rift Supply Co. If you'd like to support the channel and get a cool tee in the process, we've got a bunch of stuff over there that might interest you. Ships worldwide, for everywhere in the world. That'll all be linked below, and thanks again to all of my patrons. So it kind of feels like we were never meant to know this much about the world. As we briefly addressed earlier, biologically, we're probably not equipped to know this much about the world. Every day it's a global crisis, it's climate disasters, it's political chaos, and it's all stacked between like memes about cats and an ad for noise cancelling headphones. We're living in basically a permanent state of emotional overload, and there's no off switch. You can be like halfway through your morning coffee, barely awake, when your feed decides to remind you that a few wars have broken out. A celebrity divorce is happening. Oh, and the planet's also dying. Don't forget that. Here's a video of genocide. Here's a cat meme. And then the algorithm gently nudges you towards like a 20% off skincare sale. This can't be good for our brains. This is not... And like after a while, obviously you start to go a bit numb. And that phenomenon is called compassion fatigue, when you care so much and for so long that your brain just kind of stops. We end up in this like weird blend of burnout and detachment where every new disaster just sort of feels like a bit of a rerun. And because you can't like process it all, sometimes you cope by detaching from the severity of all of it altogether, or you start joking about it to cope with humor. And that's what people tend to call like digital nihilism, and the way that we sometimes use things like memes to emotionally distance ourselves from things that should probably horrify us. Definitely would have horrified us at any other point in human history. Like, haha, the world's ending, but you're saying it through gritted teeth while staring at an LED screen at 1 a.m. Millennials were like the first generation to popularize this, and Gen Z has taken it and run with it. And I don't even want to know what Gen Alpha is going to do with this. I'm just a little bit worried. I'm a bit worried. But that's the thing, tragedy is just like another part of the feed. We are literally like sitting there scrolling. You can see a pregnancy announcement from an old childhood friend that you went to school with from your hometown, followed by gruesome like graphic images and videos of genocide in the same 5 minutes. There just isn't any way we're not taking brain damage from this. And the scariest part is that's an expected experience. The scary thing is how normal this is all starting to feel. We've gotten so used to being constantly aware of everything that we're mistaking it for just being informed. But awareness, without being able to act on it, without being able to do anything about it, just turns into anxiety, and it's like a constant anxiety. And that's kind of like our collective baseline now, is just alert and overloaded and emotionally flat. Combine that with what AI is doing with our ability to think and what social media did to our attention spans, and the non-stop chaos pumped out by governments and grifters and the media, and it's really no wonder people are just checking out. At a certain point, you stop trying to make sense of it all and you just stop thinking critically altogether. And that is quite literally the goal for people in power. Keep us entertained and outraged and just distracted enough so that we stop asking questions. A population that is overwhelmed constantly by design doesn't rebel, it just scrolls, which is what we're doing. If you keep the noise loud enough and people can't hear themselves think. Because it's easier when we're too exhausted and too angry at the enemies that they have hand selected for us and too outraged to think at all.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publicly aren't true without checking facts first.
To push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Are you ever having like a nice little sit, a good scroll, and you're thinking like the TikTok algorithm knows you a little bit too well? Like 1 minute it's outfit inspo and suddenly you're emotionally invested in 2 strangers arguing about tipping culture. That's algorithmic complacency, when you stop choosing what to engage with because the algorithm is already doing it for you and doing a good job at it, mind you. You stop searching and you stop exploring for yourself and you just trust that the feed will figure it out. And to be fair, it usually does. Like it's creepily good at it. But the trade-off is that we stop feeling curious on our own. And the skeptic in me is saying they're doing this by design, man. The apps literally learn faster than we do. They figure out what holds our attention before we even realizing why we're giving it our attention. So our feeds aren't even like a mirror to us anymore. It's like a mood board curated by data. So you think you're just scrolling, and to be fair, we don't remember probably 99% of what we're seeing, but we are internalizing it. The algorithm is quietly rearranging your interests and your beliefs and your sense of what is normal and your baseline of what is normal. It somehow goes from watching funny gym fails to people thinking they need a $10,000 self-optimization routine. Or you start following one political creator for balance, and now your whole For You page is basically the digital equivalent of a family arguing at Christmas. At some point, we went from discovering content to just being delivered content. We're not browsing anymore, we're basically being babysat. And the scariest part is, we like it. Like, we want it that way, because real curiosity actually takes effort, and the algorithm makes that effortless. It's like at this point, I think we can all agree that doom scrolling isn't just a glitch in the system. It's not just something that's happening. It is part of the system. It is the system. It's not just that we're getting like sucked into these doom scrolling rabbit holes. It is that way because someone somewhere is cashing in on it. As we've talked about, Outrage sells. It sells ads, it sells merch, it sells podcasts, and it creates entire political careers. Reaction channels, debate podcasts, rage bait thumbnails, they all run on the exact same fuel, and that's our emotional volatility. The more fired up we are, the more valuable we become. Obviously, news outlets and like traditional media pioneered this formula. You don't need accuracy, you just need anger, and preferably a headline that makes people yell before they've even finished reading it. And let's be honest, 99% of all the people arguing in like the comments of a Facebook post didn't read past the headline. And influencers do it too. Why post an opinion about something when you can post a controversial opinion and double your engagement overnight? We effectively reward conflict with attention, and the algorithm rewards attention with reach. It's like the perfect little rage economy. Even like authenticity as a concept isn't safe anymore. It's been gamified. It's a niche. If you're too polished, then you're fake. If you're too raw, then you're performing relatability. So, and that's how you end up with creators and even just normal people like monetizing breakdowns. And if you have ever hate watched something, congratulations, you are part of the business model, which, let's be honest, means we are all part of the business model. Every single view counts exactly the same, whether it's from hate or love or morbid curiosity. Again, the internet doesn't really care why you're watching. These companies don't care why you're watching. As long as like doom scrolling and outrage equals profit, then having regulated emotions and calm will always lose this algorithmic war. So if outrage is the economy, then how do we stop spending our energy in it? Can we actually opt out of it? As much as I would love to move to the woods and start trading berries for trinkets, unfortunately, this is the world that we live in and the economy that we exist in, and participation to some degree is mandatory. Total digital detox isn't really realistic if you want to exist in society, but awareness and harm reduction is actually pretty easy. We can't really like beat the algorithm, but we can recognize when it's hijacking our lives and making our lives worse. The internet isn't inherently the enemy. It's not inherently toxic. It is actually an incredible tool, but the way that we use it and the way that we engage with it can be toxic. And it's not about deleting everything. It's just about getting intentional. Unfortunately, it kind of is that simple. You know, curate your feeds, unfollow rage bait accounts, stop engaging with content that doesn't make you feel good because you'll just be shown more of it. Mute the people who raise your blood pressure for sport. Add some friction back into your scrolling. Make it a little bit harder for you to just sit there and waste 3 hours doom scrolling. Leave your phone in another room while you work if you can, or at least turn off notifications so it doesn't feel like your brain is on call 24/7. Do not disturb is a fantastic feature. I have it on all the time. Even small stuff helps, like switching your screen to grayscale. I was shocked how much of a difference this makes in wanting to pick up your phone, is just not having color on the screen, not having as much like visual sensory input. It's like those dancing fruits for babies. That's what our phones are to adults. Or try standing in line at the post office and not immediately pulling your phone out. Just stand around, have a look around. It is really simple and easy, small habits like that that are going to make the biggest difference. You know, our phones and the internet and doom scrolling hijacks our life in small ways first, and all of that compounds into a much bigger issue. So if you address it with the small things and you compound that enough, you're going to see a massive difference. So just resist the urge to immediately pull your phone out, even if it's just for a few minutes at the start. Just have a sit instead. Sit outside in silence. Go for a walk, have a look around. Use all of those same like sensory inputs on something else instead of just looping through the same 5 apps constantly for hours. Scrolling's not inherently evil. Again, it's just loud. So the goal isn't necessarily to quit altogether. It's just to turn the metaphorical volume down a little bit, because there is a huge difference between being informed and being consumed. And to be fair, most of us are the latter. To this day, the best piece of advice I have ever received that you could apply to just about anything is just go sit outside, sit in the sun and have a banana. That's it. There's really not that much that going outside, sitting in the sun and having a banana can't at least marginally improve. Will it fix all of your life problems? Probably not. Will it make them better? Yes. Yes. Don't take your phone with you either. This is sun and banana time only. I really, unfortunately, do think that this would drastically improve the state of the world if everyone just sat outside in the sun and had a banana a lot more than we are doing. You know, world leaders and billionaires might not start so many wars and drag half the world's population into their men's drama if everyone just sat outside and had a fucking banana. Anyway, back to the point. Outrage is profitable. Peace isn't. A tale as old as time. And at some point, outrage stopped being like a reaction and started being the beating heart of the internet and society as a whole. And the louder it gets, the harder it is to remember what silence feels like. We're so used to this just constant stimulation. But choosing not to doom scroll, choosing not to be 100% aware of all the fresh horrors going on in the world at all times isn't apathy. In fact, it's often the opposite. It's clarity. You can care about the world without letting it chew through your nervous system. And and you can stay informed without being constantly inflamed. The algorithm demands urgency and demands constant involvement and constant attention, but you don't have to center your life around that. Choosing silence or boredom or calm in a system built to keep you reactive all the time is an act of rebellion in and of itself. And if you've made it this far in the video without checking another app or checking your phone, congratulations, you've already beaten the algorithm once today. I would love to hear what you guys think about this in the comments. Have you tried the sun and the banana? Have you tried it? What are your thoughts? Do you want me to stop talking about sitting in the sun with a banana? But I'm genuinely interested, what tactics do you employ to sort of combat doom scrolling and combat this constant need to be stimulated? Are you doing anything at all? As always, eat your veggies, make your bed, put the goddamn phone down. Our parents were right, it's the goddamn phones.